but this conference is for strong people. After the AU Honorable Chaplain lecture here, I don't think I need to add, because more or less what he has said in very good way, that's the things that I'm going to say here. Still, I hope to emphasize a few things. So, distinguished hosts, honorable bishop and priest, esteemed ministers, respected members, my colleague from Israel, Knesset member Sharon Askel, former minister Moody Zandberg, the former municipality of Jerusalem member Flair, good to see you here, our exceptional ambassador of Ethiopia, Avraham, congratulations, be'atzlacha in your new role here, and all of you, of course, all the esteemed guests that present here. So, good afternoon to all of you. I want to thank you sincerely for inviting me here from the Holy Land. It's an honor for me to be here at the first Africa-Israel Parliamentary Conference, mainly because to me it marks an important new step. And I want to explain what is the uniqueness of what you actually are doing, Dennis and all the organizers here, what we are doing here, why it's so unique and why it's so important. This is a political conference with parliamentarians from various countries, but it's based not only on our shared interest and the enormous potential for political cooperation between Israel and Africa, and there is huge potential, only for my discussions here during lunch, huge potential. The connection between Israel and the Africa countries, but this conference also declares that these interests are rooted in values leaning on the shared foundation of biblical principles that unite us all. Interest, as you know, may shift with time, but values, our humanity, our faith, and our commitment to justice, morality, and truth are eternal and should serve as the foundation for every meaningful relationship. And I think this is exactly the status between Israel and African nations. We have common values, common infrastructure of values, and this is the importance of this conference. You know, I don't know, many conferences in the past century have begun with a prayer. I don't know, Dennis, this is usual to open the conference with prayer, but we began this morning with prayer. We prayed because we know that God's Spirit and the values He commanded are present in our discussions here. We recognize that even in our modern era, the battle continues over whether God is seen as the God of death, injustice, and enslavement, or the God of life, goodness, and freedom. This is the battle. We are fighting against those who desecrate His name, distort His foundations of religious morality, and speak as if in His name, yet in reality disgrace Him. Therefore, I want to extend special thanks to the organizer, my friends, Dennis and Eric. Where is Eric? Eric, all right. Peter from Think, Pastor Thomas Emmanuel, Bishop Joshua Merling, and my dear friend Josh Weinstein, and to all others who contributed to this event. What you are doing, and you know it, I told you in my office, I think that what you are doing, in my opinion, is the most important work in the world today. Most important work. This is the central battle of our time, and by strengthening the alliance between Israel, yes, the people of Bible, and the nations of Africa, you are upholding the biblical values of justice, truth, honesty, and kindness. And as Dennis said before, those who stand with Israel stand with justice, stand with God. So thank you all for all what you're doing here and daily basis. I also couldn't help but notice something. I don't know if you noticed that both presidents, also the president of the Israel Allies and the president, Honorable Bishop, both names, your name and Joshua, right? Josh, okay. So that's reminded me, you know, when we stood at the edge of the promised land after crossing the Red Sea and wandering through the desert, we sent 12 spies. You remember this story, right? We sent 12 spies, okay, to scout the land. Does anyone here remember the name of, let's say, Nachbi ben Vovsi? Somebody remember this name? Somebody here remember the name of Gadiel ben Susi, for example? No. Do you remember Josh? Joshua? Absolutely, yes. Right? Joshua and Caleb. We remember them, yes. So I want to say to our two Josh and to all the other respectable organizers, don't be discouraged by the noise around you, by the challenges and resistance you face in organizing conference like this and in your usual activities in your countries. History will not remember the rattles and the disparate people. It will remember you. You, the ones who stood like Joshua, unwavering in truth and justice, and said, the land is exceedingly good, and we will surely ascend and inherit it, for we are able. Okay, so we too are able. We can overcome whether it's political challenges, political incorrectness, or other obstacles. Keep moving forward, Eric. Keep moving forward. Africa, Norway, every place in the world, we are behind you. Thank you very much. I was asked to speak. That was the opening, Dennis. You know, politicians, before he talk, he said, I will say a few words before I talk. So these were the few words. Okay, I was asked to speak about the call for friendship, as Dennis said, the call for friendship and partnership between Israel and Africa. Why Israel and Africa needs each other? And I believe there are three answers. Again, the Honorable Chaplain of the AU actually said it. I'm just emphasizing and add few comments to his wonderful speech here. Three reasons why the partnership between us is actually must be expanded and dependent. And the three reasons are geography, history, and faith. Okay? We have three reasons why we must expand our and strengthen our bonds, our ties together. Geography, history, and theology, if you want. More exact to say, faith. So I'll start with the geography dimension. We are neighbors, yes? It's not secret. Who was in Israel? Everybody was in Israel. Who wasn't in Israel till now? Be our guest this year, please. We are neighbors. Africa and Israel are part of a shared vision that compels us to face similar, even identical challenges. I will touch on two major, climate and security. Okay, so let's start from climate. Israel, both actually, Israel and Africa have arid and desert areas. Yes, the prophet Isaiah, 2,500 years ago, said, her desert shall become like paradise, like Eden, and her wasteland like the garden of the Lord. Now, this prophecy has been fulfilled. As you know, the Zionist movement and the state of Israel succeeded in draining and drying malaria-infested swamps and making the desert bloom through the land of Israel. This Israeli effort included planting of a great number of trees, making efficient use of underground water sources, even in desert regions, by the way, diverting water for agriculture development, and inventing modern technologies for cultivating crops suitable for these areas. There is one remarkable, I think, example that I want to share with you. I don't know if you know this story regarding the flourishing the desert, is the story of Kibbutz Revivim. Kibbutz Revivim is one of our settlements in the Negev before the State of Israel was established. He was established in 1943. 1943, and the people of Kibbutz Revivim, the settlers there, the kibbutz members, one of their decisions was to I said the name in English of the flower which we called Saifanim, gladiolot. Yes. So they decided that now Kibbutz Revavim, it's the name of the area was the Cursed Valley, because no rain fell there, no plants grew, no animals roamed there. The kibbutz number decided to plant gladiolus bulbs. Yes, it's a wonderful flower, very, very colorful. Yes, as exceptionally beautiful flower. No one believed they would bloom in the desert sand, but they did. Okay, those gladiola bulbs indeed bloomed there. In 1946, now the story, listen to this story, it's a miracle. In 1946, British delegation came to evaluate the partition plan, including where to draw the borders for the future Jewish plan. You know the partition plan? So they came, the British delegation, now they arrived just as the gladioli bloomed, creating a stunning sight of colorful flowers in the middle of the desert. Amazed, the British said, that's the way it happens. The British delegation, in that delegation said, if the Jews could make the desert bloom in just 3 years, since 1943 to 1946, yes, then this land must belong to them. And they included the Negev, as you know, as part of the future Jewish state in their suggestion to the partition plan. I heard this story, by the way, from the son of the kibbutz member that was there. And he actually met the British delegation. And so Revivim is a great example of technological development, the use of saline underground water, dam building, and more, all stemming from a deep cultural motivation rooted in our Jewish tradition, in our biblical tradition, to bring life to the world, to love life, and to fill the world with life. No matter the place, without desperate, that's our motivation. This applies not only tackling desert, but also water management. Israel is not rich in water resources, as you know, so we built excellent desalination, and water purification plants. Majority of our water we drink from desalination. We also treat wastewater for agriculture and even share our success by supplying water to our neighbors, such as Jordan. Many African nations face similar climate challenges. Yes, also desert areas and water problems. So by sharing knowledge, I'm confident we can bring life to many of our peoples and nations. Yes, how it goes. I saw today only the anthem of the AU. Yes, I wrote to myself, let us make Africa. No, that's the American version. But in the anthem that we saw today, let us make Africa tree of life. No? That was the end of the anthem. Okay, so I want to add one word, let us make together Africa tree of life. Like we did in our own desert area or climate problems, we can do it here together, of course, to share our common knowledge. Second point in terms of the geographical dimension, the fact that we are neighbors, is security. In our neighborhood, both in Africa and in the Middle East, those who represent a culture that cherishes life must contend, with those who glorify death. Most of their initiatives focused on building murderous terrorist organization to which they dedicated the majority of their resources. You know, people surprised from Gaza. They got billions of dollars from all over the world. One hospital, one serious hospital, not the hospitals now. They have dozens of hospitals because every hospital is headquarters of terror. So it's only a cover name of terror activities. One university, nothing. All the resources are dedicated to terror. The primary force behind this today, as it was mentioned already by my colleague, you heard her clear words, Sharren Haskel, MK Sharren Haskel, is Iran evil empire. This is the evil empire today. The right definition, the exact definition of evil empire today, this is the Iranian regime. We threaten all countries in the regions directly as well as through its proxies. As you know, we come here in the midst of a war. We are fighting Hamas in Gaza after the horrific and barbaric massacre in October 7. We are also being attacked by Hezbollah, which is firing rockets at Israeli cities, also by Houthim from Yemen, who are obstructing Israeli shipping in the Red Sea, and by militias in Syria and Iraq. These threats are not unfamiliar to you. Am I right? Not unfamiliar to you. You know, people in Africa knows very well. It also was mentioned before. You know what's happening in Nigeria with Boko Haram. You know in Somalia with Al-Shabaab, in Libya, and in other countries with ISIS, or with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. The list goes on. In this area too, cooperation is critical. It's sharing intelligence, counter-terrorism training, leveraging technological advancement. Yesterday, for example, I think we all heard that the brother of Fuad Shukr, you know who is Fuad Shukr? He was the chief of the army of Hezbollah. Yes, and his brother, yesterday, his brother found his death, and he joined actually to his brother, who was eliminated a month ago in his own bed. Yes, those are important capabilities that bolster Israel's deterrence and strengthen every force that seeks life and peace in our neighborhood, like the African countries. I would like to add a historical note on this neighborhood cooperation. Israel as a country located at the crossroad of continents has always served as an international hub for trade, knowledge, and transportation. So this neighborhood cooperation between the Africa people and Israel, it's not something new. It's natural. It was all over the years. And I think Sharren also reminded it that, you know, we are here in Ethiopia. Where is the Ethiopian now? So the Ethiopian, of course, know it. I'm sure my colleague here from the Ethiopian parliament know that 100 years ago, as described in the Bible, the Queen of Sheba came to meet King Solomon for this purpose, for just this purpose, yes, to share innovations and capabilities for the benefit of both people. And it's said that they didn't settle for just a polite exchange. Some say that King Menelik was born from this encounter. So, right, Mr. Ambassador, there is such rumor that they also have some kids from this encounter. Thanks God. Okay, this is the first call for cooperation. How much time left, Dennis? Oh, okay, this is the call of geography. I said 3 reasons for our cooperation: geography, history, and faith. Geography, history. This is the call of geography. We are neighbors. We are challenging the same. We have the same challenges, and our cooperation is natural, and we can bring benefits to both people and to have fruitful and good neighborly relations. The second call is history. History also calls us for cooperation. Historically, Israel and the overwhelming majority of African nations, maybe besides Ethiopia, okay, Ethiopia is exception, have shared one major experience: liberation from colonialism. Liberation. Besides Ethiopia. I mean, you have 2 years maybe of Mussolini, but besides the king, by the way, where he went, you told us this yesterday, he went to Jerusalem because he saw Jerusalem as his second home. And when the British took over Ethiopia, so they brought him from Jerusalem, right? But you were liberated all over the years besides this Mussolini period. But all the African nations that are present here in this conference, all of them are by colonialism. Yes, colonialism, I mean not only the 19th century period when Africa was divided and controlled by European powers, but also the colonialism for ancient and medieval times from the Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, and Arabs. We the same, okay? The Jewish people too freed ourselves from colonialism. Exactly like Africa, Israel was also conquered and subjugated by Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Arab, and Turks. And we too lived under British colonial rule in the 20th century. Experiencing subjugation is not a minor detail in a nation's history. Okay? It's not a minor detail in a nation's history. To be under occupation, to be under colonialist regime. Only those who have lived under the yoke of oppression truly understand the value of freedom. Nations whose natural resources were exploited by foreign rulers develop a deep bond with their land and homeland landscape, deepening their roots there. When we left Egypt 3,300 years ago, it was a model for the entire world, a model for people who could not tolerate enslavement, who could not build life in a foreign land, and who aspired to live a natural life in their own country, even if that meant crossing the sea and the desert. This was a model for a liberation movement in the world history. You know, there is a small book of Professor Walzer, Michael Walzer, Exodus as Revolution. He describes how the meaning of Exodus from Egypt is the declaration that man was created in the image of God, that he is a free being, and that no one has the right to enslave him. This is God's will. He stated many times in the Bible, free will is granted to man, and even God doesn't intervene in it because he desires man to be free. Freedom is the fundamental condition for true faith. Otherwise, you are not a believer if you've been forced to believe. This is not a real belief. Okay? This is the fundamental condition for faith, true faith, creativity, and the realization of higher noble aspects of humanity. Therefore, Israel and Africa people in particular understand the value of freedom and understand each other more than any other nations of culture, especially more than those who were never enslaved. This is also why collaborations aimed at bringing redemption and strengthening the national individual freedom of our people are both necessary and natural. This is the second call. I hope you are with me. Besides the geographic bond between us, there is also the historical dimension. We know what liberation is about. We know it very well, both of us. That's why our cooperation can bring our future to freedom and redemption. And the third and last one is the element of faith, because freedom and redemption are at the heart of the religious faith of biblical theology, which we share and which calls us also for brotherhood, unity, and cooperation. The central faith message of Judaism and Christianity is redemption, salvation, which will come in the end of the days. Our people, the people of Israel, have endured pogroms, tortures, and suffering of all kinds for hundreds of years. Yes, I think there is hardly a day in the Middle Age that you mark a date and you cannot find persecutions or expulsions of Jews by various groups somewhere in the world. Throughout this period, we kept the hope. Yes, you know, in Hebrew, hope, it's a word that built of a line. Yes, tikva, it's from kav, from line. It means the long line, not only the point that you are now stand. You should see the long line beyond the point, bad point, sometimes that you are standing now. We maintained our faith over all those years, the exile, we maintained it in God's promise to our forefather, in the truth of the prophet's words. By the grace of God, all of this was fulfilled, Baruch Hashem, in our generation. The people of Israel returned to their land, making, as I mentioned before, the swamps and the desert bloom, and we now have our own sovereign state and army. But all this happened because we believed in redemption and the unity inherent in it. A belief in one God, in monotheism, meaning faith that all these phenomena of division and enslavement are temporary. They are not the essence of the world. The world is governed by God, and belief in Him is belief in freedom and unity. And I want to clarify this point. This is my last comment, but I want to clarify it because I think we, now, today, in the 21st century, we stand at the crossroad where there are two monotheist paths. We are in a crossroad. We have two monotheist paths. One is monotheism in the spirit of human and world redemption, meaning liberation from all forms of enslavement and the sincere effort to strengthen the brotherhood between nations and states, where each state, each culture contributes its unique part to the diverse family of nations. There is other option, other monotheism path. This is a monotheism as dictatorship. Monotheism in the spirit of radical Islam, whether Shiite or radical Sunni, where God Himself is an enslaver, yes, an enforcer, subjugating and destroying humanity and the world under His rule. In recent years, the representatives of oppressive monotheism have been rising, posing a threat to the world peace. The culture of Africa and Israel, based on biblical values, nation that found in religions and in the words of the prophets the message of redemption from enslavement and the message of brotherhood and anti-colonialism, can and should build and strengthen the unity between us and among us. This is the third reason, not only geographic reason, not only historic, but also the faith reason. Our faith is different. Our monotheism is different from those bad radical Muslims, philosophers, and this is the base of why we must educate the next generation in these values and spread this shared spiritual message to all people. This is the call of faith for us to cooperate. Dear beloved, I want to end with this statement, dear beloved neighbors, brothers, and true believers, yes, because of geography, history, and faith, because of who we are as individuals and as nations, we must work together persistently, seriously, and everywhere. And I suggest that, Dennis, that each of us will take one mission, never mind what field, agriculture, water, education, radical Muslims, UN votes that you mentioned, one mission, and we'll take this in any field and we'll take it on his shoulders to strengthen the ties between us. And you know, as I said, we're in the middle of a war. Our soldiers, our IDF soldiers, are currently fighting in Rafah, in Gaza, in Lebanon, but they are also fighting for Addis Ababa, for Angola and Kenya, because this is the same culture that threatened Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, threatens Mecca, Washington, and Ethiopia. So I see all of us. That's the reason, by the way, Dennis, that I came here. I usually don't go out from Israel, especially in the middle of a war. I consider this conference as part of the war. I consider us as soldiers in the same front line. And that's why I ask that we expand our cooperation to realize this vision. You have my details in the brochure. If somebody didn't get, you have my phone number, you have my email. Please use it. You're welcome to reach out to me. We will be happy to host you in Israel, in the Knesset, in the Parliament, and to continue this conference throughout the year with shared action. We are approaching Rosh Hashanah in Israel, and I heard that this is also New Year celebration here. So I want to conclude my remarks with a special prayer from Rosh Hashanah prayers in the Jewish tradition, which is repeatedly asked of God. And it says like this: Our God and God of our forefathers, reign over the entire world in your glory, be exalted over all the earth in your splendor, appears in the majesty of your might to all of the inhabitants of your world, so that every creation will know that you made it, that every formed being will understand that you created it, and all who have breath in their nostrils will proclaim, the Lord God of Israel is the King, and his kingship has dominion over everything. I pray with you that our cooperation will advance the sovereignty of God in the world, and that we will be partners in building a world full of life, joy, goodness, and holiness. Let us make, as I said before, Africa, let us make together Africa, tree of life. Thank you, and may God bless Israel, Africa, and our partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry. It's okay, we'll deal with that, don't worry. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Honorable Amir Halevi. We appreciate your messages of encouragement, the fact that you have mobilized us to partnership. I'd encourage members of Parliament here that are here, speak to your members of the Knesset as much as you can, exchange contacts, visit each other. There's a lot that you can make together. There's a lot that you can build together. There's a lot that you can do for your constituents and your nations together at the end of the day. So thank you very much, Honorable Amir Halevi, for that wonderful speech. Israel is a unique nation unmatched. And this is what David said, King David said in 1 Chronicles 17:21. He said, and what one nation in the earth is like thy people Israel, whom God went to redeem to be his own people, to make thee a name of greatness and terribleness, by driving out nations from before thy people, whom thou hast redeemed out of Egypt. For thy people Israel didn't thou make thine own forever, and thy Lord became thy God. We also see the same in Exodus 19:6, that says, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. We see similar words in Romans 9:4-5, which says, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth several things. The first one is the adoption. The second one is the glory. The third one is the covenants. The fourth one is the giving of the law. The fifth one is the service to God. The sixth one is the promises. The seventh one is who are the fathers. And the most important one is the eighth one, of whom as concerning the flesh Christ came, who is over all, God blessed forever. It says that it is in this nation that produced the Messiah. In the book of Revelation, again, it speaks of a much fundamental thing, and that is Revelation 5:5. This was a vision by John the Revelator that he saw it in heaven. And he was sad that there are certain seals in heaven that cannot be opened. And this is what one of the angels said. He said, and one of the elders said unto me, weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof. As Christians, we believe that our Messiah is Yeshua HaMashiach. This is what the Bible says, that even as he sits on the right hand of the Father, he still has the earthly title as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And he still belongs to the root of David. It means that he's still a Jew at the end of the day. And this is why I invite Honorable Moody Sandberg, former minister of Israel, to tell us of the blessings of the land of Israel. What are these blessings that we talk about from the land of Israel? Are they real, or is this just mystical biblical stuff or spiritual stuff that we have to imagine in our heads? Please, with a thunderous hand clap, welcome one of our greatest partners, the most traveled Jew in Africa, Honorable Moody Sandberg, who is a great contributor to this conference. Thank you very much, Honorable Moody. Karibu.
Shalom everyone. Shalom, Tzaharaim Tovim, good afternoon. You can say Tzaharaim Tovim, it's in Hebrew, a little bit complicated, but repeat. Tzaharaim Tovim. Tovim means good afternoon. I know it's a difficult time after, like Amit said, after lunch, and it's also challenging because in 20 minutes, Dennis will tell me to step down immediately because we have to go. But I'll try to summarize a bit, and I'm here in the next more than 24 hours. We're all together, and feel free to approach me and ask and talk about anything that you have in your mind. You know, 23 years ago, on September 11, 2001, I was standing together with other members of Knesset, the Israeli parliament. I was a member of Knesset for 14 years. We were standing together on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., okay? And we saw the explosion of the airplane on the Pentagon. That happened around, I think, 45 minutes after the Twin Towers collapsed by the terrorist action there in New York. And, you know, my wife was calling me after the Twins fell, and I was in Washington, and so I said to her, don't worry, we are like 5 hours drive from the place. It's like Israel and Turkey. If something happens in Turkey, we're not worried in Israel, right? Everything is okay. And then suddenly, boom, and you see the fire, and you see the smoke, and you understand that a new chapter in the history of the world has started. And this is a chapter in which evil raises its head. Evil raises its head with different organizations and different faces. Hezbollah and Hamas are the ones that we know directly because they are on our borders. ISIS was there in the Middle East and now in Africa. And you have Boko Haram and you have others, Al-Shabaab. They are all there. Evil is raising its head. And when they raise their head, they chop other people's heads. They murder, they rape, they burn. The evil is there among us, getting stronger, and got stronger in this period of time more and more. But now I stand here and I see what is happening in this room, and I hear you, members and representatives of so many countries, coming to say no more. And I tell you that 23 years after that terrible event in America, A new chapter in history is open. A new chapter in history is written. Together, we are going to open and write the chapter of good, the chapter of success for the good part. We will fight evil and we'll come to the victory. And the victory will be the victory of the people of faith, the people who believe in the Bible, who believe in the values that makes us what we are. And we know what we are. I don't need to repeat and go deep to that because I don't have time, okay? And in this chapter of victory on evil, Africa and Israel are going to partner. We are going to write it together. We are going to write it together and elaborate and strengthen our partnership that started long ago. And I believe that together we will defeat evil, and together things will turn to be better. And it's our responsibility, and this is the hope that we are going to bring to our nations, to our children, to our grandchildren in my case, and to all the people in the countries where we live. Now, not everything is negative, and you have to remember it, okay? First of all, we are living in special times, and I will not repeat. The prophecies of the Bible becomes reality in front of our eyes. You know, I belong to a family who came to Israel from Europe. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and they came to Israel, made Aliyah, and many others made Aliyah. Aliyah was not, immigration to Israel is Aliyah. Aliyah was not possible before the state was established or few decades before. And suddenly the words of the prophecy that Jews will return to Israel riding the wings of eagles become reality. If you ask someone 100 years ago, what are the wings of eagles? Can you imagine every Jew sitting on an eagle flying to Israel? Impossible, right? Not enough eagles. But airplanes are the eagles. And that's very clear to us today because we understand what it means. And things that were not clear maybe 100 years ago becomes reality and very simple and understood to us. And these are special times. Now, we are also experience new terminology, new words that came to our world, like AI, artificial intelligence, ML, Africa, Israel, ML, machine learning, what do we put there? I don't know, we'll think about it. Space tech, ed tech, education technology, telemedicine, okay? So many words that reflect the changes that the world is going through. Now, these are different titles or descriptions of different technologies. And the thing that we have in common in all of them is that Israel has and contributed in those fields. There is hardly any field of the new technology, innovative technology in the world where Israel is not a partner or a leading partner. Now, I was the Minister of Science and Technology and the Minister of National Infrastructures. And I remember one time I went to Ariel Sharon, he was the Prime Minister, and I tried to explain to him, I think then I was the chairman of the subcommittee for high-tech that I established in Parliament, and I tried to explain to him about nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is the technology about the very little things, okay? And Ariel Sharon was listening, and then he said, yes, but the important thing is, I will not imitate him like he was talking, yeah, and he said, the important thing is not how many cameras we put in the butt of a fly, but what those cameras can do, okay? Because we spoke about little things that you can put into a small size of a fly size of an element that can fly in the room and espionage and take images, etc. So he was not really interested in how it works and how the technology behind it is operated. He was interested in what are the benefits, okay? And this is a lesson that I believe all politicians should adopt. We need to listen. We need to understand what the different technologies are all about, but we don't need to be the experts that explain what is the difference between AI, machine based on such and such, ML, machine learning technology, etc. Just understand what the tools can give you. And it's not to you as individuals, it's to the people of your country. It's for the future of your country. It's for the ability to make the lives of your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren much better in whenever you are. This is building and strengthening Africa. This is building and strengthening the continent that I believe has the potential for the best future. If you look around, most of the population in Africa are young people. What are they going to do when they will grow up? How will they will integrate into the world of technology, the advanced world? You need to have the knowledge, but you need to have the knowledge to know what to do and how to shape a policy. And believe me, this is not an easy thing. I tried to do it many times, fighting for the budget and stuff like that in Israel. And it's a challenge, but it's on your shoulders. We can discuss it in another time. I want to talk briefly, I believe, about the different potential technologies, just samples in different fields that I believe Israel can collaborate. I think it was mentioned by our Prime Minister, my friend Benjamin Netanyahu, the issue of water. Israel suffered from water problems, okay? We didn't have enough water. We started to desalinate the water, and today Israel desalination technologies are the cheapest in the world. During lunchtime, I heard someone who is working with the Watergen company, I think at the end. Watergen company is a company that takes the humidity from the air and turn it into drinking water in a level of mineral water. Now, maybe it doesn't fit the prices of water in some places, but definitely there's a room for that in some of the countries, in some of the areas. And this is making really water from the air. Remember what God told Moses, and he was doubtful. Hit the rock, and the water will come out. Now you don't hit the rock, now you look to the air, and the water comes down. And these are, 100 years ago, it would be a miracle. Now it's technology, and this technology is available everywhere you want if you buy it from Israel, and it's there for us. Think about the recycling of water, a major issue. I think it was in Johannesburg, and they told me there that the problem is that the city is expanding very much, but the sewage system, the treatment of the sewage is not increasing the same. So they have a problem. In Israel, we have technologies to clear the sewage water and bring it to the level of drinking water in a very fast way. 1/7 of the time that is usually needed to do that. That means that you will have a lot of more water for your agriculture. That means that your dependence on rains or other water supplies that sometimes are a challenge will not be there. It also means that you will keep with the rules, or at least the policies that we are all expected to keep as to pollution and environmentally friendly. You clear the same water, you give them to the trees, you get the water for the fruits, you have something to eat in the same water that now you are just throw somewhere in the dump where all the sewage. Healthcare, okay? Israel is very strong in medical devices. Why? Medical devices usually demands knowledge in different technical spheres. For example, and this is a very known one, is the little pill that is called the CAM pill. Have you heard about it? It's called Give an Image Company. It's a pill that you swallow, goes inside your digest system, comes out naturally, and takes images of the digest system from the inside. Very quickly, very simple. It's a product that exists for very many years. But the story behind it is, I think, the interesting part. The story is about two engineers, okay, that worked for Rafael. Rafael is an Israeli company, government company that develops weapons. They developed the Iron Dome that I'm sure all heard about, that protects the lives of the Israeli citizens from the rockets sent towards Israel. So one guy was a missile engineer, rockets engineer. The other one was an optic engineer. And both of them went on a sabbatical year to America. And one of them was not feeling well with his stomach, okay? So he had to go to the hospital to do an unpleasant examination called colonoscopia, okay? And he came home, and he told his friend, there's a man already walking on the moon, and still I need to go to the hospital and do this colonoscopia examination. So they sat together, and they created this pill that you swallow, takes the images, comes down naturally, and you don't need to do some parts of the colonoscopia examination, okay? Think about it. One engineer deals with rockets, the other one deals with visual issues, and together they built a medical device. This is creativity. And creativity, in many cases, is what we have in Israel. It's hard to tell you why. It's about the Israeli character in a way. It's about how people think in Israel. It's about the fact that Israelis are not embarrassed to admit that they failed and they were wrong or that they have a problem. And when you share your problems, many times you find solutions among the ones that you share with. Israelis tell their opinion very openly. I'm sure the members of Knesset, my colleagues, and His Excellency, the ambassador, who was a member of Knesset, knows that you go in Israel in the street and someone can come and tell you, Mr. Minister, it happens to me. I saw you yesterday on television. Why do you wear a pink shirt on television? It doesn't fit the color of your face. People you don't know can tell you, get a haircut, you don't look good. You know, Israelis are like this. They are open to the good and to the bad. But we share the problem, we share the knowledge, and together we are able to find a solution. And in finding the solution, there's another important element. We never give up, okay? We have this say that if the door is closed, you get from the window. And if the window is closed and still you want to be in the room, you come from the sink. But you will find a way to do it, okay? Because that's what Israelis do when we look into challenges and we like to find solutions. So I mentioned healthcare. There are a variety of other elements in healthcare, I will not go through so many of them, that combines today the AI, the artificial intelligence, and what we call the telemedicine, the ability to give the solution without the need to have the presence of the doctor physically next to the patient. I'll give you an example of a company called Illumigen that I was working with for a long time already, where they developed a kind of a machine that can check a women's vagina from far with a camera. That can tell if this woman, God forbid, has womb cancer or needs to have a treatment or not. The doctor doesn't need to be there. He doesn't even need to see the woman. All the information goes backwards to the place where the doctor sits. It can sit in Israel. It can sit in the capital of the country. It can sit in Mayo Clinic or in India. It doesn't matter. But the information, the medical information, will go there, the opinion will be given, and then the person can get the treatment much faster, because we are lacking doctors all around the world. We are lacking nurses all around the world, and healthcare services are not as good as they should be in many places around the world. So let's bring the technology to the villages. Let's bring the technology to the different places where the artificial intelligence algorithms and the ability to do the medical the telemedicine will enable us to serve more people and help them. And I can give you examples about scanning for skin cancer, about scanning for other diseases with machines that can replace the big CT machines that are very costly and usually are located only in the capitals of the countries. So healthcare is a field where we can work together. Just now, before I came, I spoke with a person called Dr. Hussam from the Technion. Technion is like the MIT of Israel. And he invented a technology in which you can check tuberculosis by the breath of the people, similar to what you do when you test the corona test, okay? No need to go to the X-ray machine, no need to do very other complicated things, just a little thing that you go around and check. I'm trying to push it now to Indonesia because they suffer strongly there from tuberculosis, the tuberculosis that is spreading all over. But that's another example. So medical devices, healthcare is another field that we can rely on Israel, on building together the bridges for the benefit of the people where you are. I can talk about things that are very far away. One of the subjects I like to talk, but I will not do it now because I don't have the time, is the space technology, okay? You know, we're all here. But Israel belongs to one of, I think, only 8 countries in the world, a special club of countries that has the ability to build and launch satellites. We are a very small country. Our space agency is very small. I was in charge of the space agency long ago. In my time, I met the head of the space agency of India, okay? And we were sitting on dinner, only us, and he says to me, I have 15,000 employees in my space agency in India. How many do you have? And I put my hand like this, and I said, 1. And I was exaggerating, 2, I said. I was exaggerating. 1 was working there. The second was the secretary part-time. But the Israeli system is different. We are not building on the government budget. We are building on collaboration with companies, encourage them to do the research and build what we need for satellites. And now the space become an area where research is done. We have an Israeli company that is creating medicines in space. Without gravity, you can create medicines in powder, where in other places on Earth, you have to do it in liquid. Okay, that's the future. That's the future, and we are there. I will continue faster. Cyber, no need to say, okay, because I know all of you know the abilities of Israel, and whatever I will say, I will have to deny later. We have no contact to whatever you see in the newspapers, but believe me, our abilities in cyber are very, very impressive, and in most of your countries, we share many of it, but I believe that this is time to go and work also with the private sector, and there are technologies that can fit cyber-wise, the small sector, the small and medium enterprises. The reason is that soon Europe will come out with the new rules of privacy protection called GDPR or GDRP. And those rules will demand every business in your country that has involvement with information about European citizens or European companies to make sure that this information, the data in your computers, is protected. What will happen then is that the ones that don't have cybersecurity for their small business, hotel that is working with Booking.com, I don't know, a company that works with Visa or MasterCard, they cannot do businesses with Europe anymore. We have the ability to offer you a very cheap cybersecurity that fits to the standards of the European new regulations. Vehicles, cars, okay? I know that this country cannot import any more cars that are not electric vehicles. Now, in Israel, the car industry basically is not developed. We don't manufacture cars. The last car that was manufactured in Israel, it was 1969, okay? I was still alive then, but it was long ago. Now, those cars were made of fiberglass, and you cannot take them to the desert because the camels could bite them, you know, it was like food for the camels. But we don't manufacture cars. Still, we have 500 and even more companies in Israel that deals with car technology, okay? And I will not go through all of it. But remember, cars technology today is not what you knew about before. It's not about the metal, it's not about the seats, it's about the computers that are inside. Okay, computers. If you have computers, it means digital. Digital, cyber, we are in. And Israel contributes dramatically to the changes in the automotive market in the world. You know, Mobileye, it's a very famous example of cars that can predict any risks on the road. I believe they can also drive without a driver very easily. They do it in some places in Israel. Even improvement of the electric batteries exist in Israel, chargers that are solar chargers for the cars. It's all there. We are there. And I know that Africa is going in this direction because the issue of fuel is a major issue in Africa. And don't get me wrong, it's all connected to politics because the price of fuel is also manipulated by countries that unfortunately, you know, when God divided the resources in the world, He gave us the human resource, the brains, but oil went to the other side. And today, the ability of anti-Israel, anti-democratic, and anti-our world countries like Iran to raise prices of oil and give more money to terrorists, build atomic bombs, stuff like that, it all exists from the prices of oil that generates income to those countries. So alternative fuel will be a perfect solution, and we are there to offer it where it's possible. I don't have too much time, so, you know, Moses was promised by God that the Israelites will be taken to the land of milk and honey, okay? Now today, milk and honey are only commodities. It's not that much as it used to be maybe in the past. But agriculture and also milk and honey are fields where we, in Israel, are very, very developed, and you know how much we share with your countries. Golda Meir, that was mentioned by His Excellency, the Ambassador, when she was the Foreign Minister of Israel, she went to visit African countries, but she also offered all the blessings that we have to the independent countries, to the countries that just want independence in Africa. One of the very famous agriculture technologies was the drip irrigation. Drip irrigation that can really bring and turn the desert bloom. because it brings the water to the places where the farmers badly need it, okay? It's there. Today, you have very new generations of the drip irrigation, and it's not only the drip irrigation. We talk about a variety of other agriculture stuff. Today, in Israel, we have a challenge. You know, there were workers that came from the Palestinian Authority to work in Israel. They don't come anymore because we understand they come, maybe they work, but some of them also murder us, so no more. Now technology is going to replace their work. For example, there are companies, actually more than one, that is working on drones that will fly and do the pickup of the fruits by vacuum, okay? And the drone can do it 24 hours a day and night. Take the fruit, and if it's like a big orange or apple, he will put it in this basket. If not, he will throw it to another one. Now, it's true, it's not cheap. It's not something that immediately can be implemented everywhere, but this is the future, to replace the people. Now, the other challenge with picking up the fruits is that the trees are big, but they are rounded, right? And sometimes the fruits are inside. What do? You cannot send the drone between the leaves or the branches. So now we are working on growing trees that will be flat like a wall or close to a wall, very flat, very narrow. The drones can go and pick it up immediately. You know, you can think, this guy is a visionary, he tells you stories. I hope we will live long enough, because I believe that in 10 years from now, you will see it as a technology in places when manpower counts, okay? And then it will come to other places. There is a company in Israel that develops, it's called a bioreactor, and they are developing the ability to manufacture coffee in-house, in a factory in-house. Think what that will do to the economy of the countries that are based on coffee. Norway can grow its own coffee inside and do it in the flavor the local people like. There are changes. The world is changing, and we are part of those changes. And I can mention others as well, maybe because I talked about honey. There's a company in Israel that is creating artificial honey, okay? The honey will be printed like in a 3D machine in a company, instead of going to the beehives and stealing the honey from the bees. Another company that exists in this field is using artificial intelligence to know when and where is the right place for the bees to come and take whatever material is needed to create the fruits. You know, the bees has more roles than just give us honey. So this is honey. Milk, no need to mention. You know, the Israeli cows holds the world record in milk production. We developed a kind of a chip that, you know, the cow swallows. It stays between the two stomachs of the cow, and it sends you the data about the cow, how much it ate, how much it went. Did it go according to the average of the others, or maybe it's sick, it doesn't walk all day, go and see what happened to it. It can tell you when the cow is ready to get a baby, okay, so you can fertilize it. Variety of things that are coming with managing the milk production market. Now, the cows in Israel, they don't go free. They are in a certain place, you can monitor it, but the advantages for multiplying the supply of milk from a single cow is very important when and where you want to develop it. I still have a few minutes, so all those things that I mentioned, and I can talk about very many more, we don't keep it for ourselves in Israel, okay? God has told us to be a light unto the nations. That means that we share. We share the know-how, we share the technologies, and we would love to share and continue sharing with our partners in the struggle in this world for a better world, partners in our struggle against evil, people who believe like us in the book, and people who share with us the same values, our friends here in Africa. But we reach out, our hand is reach out for Africa since day one. There were times that the other side did not came to shake this hand. I hope things are changing. When I was when I was a minister, or before that, I established the friendship group between Africa and Israel in the Knesset. That was long ago. And the ambassadors come, you know, ambassadors from Africa come and talk with me. And they say, yes, we need this, we need this, we need this kind of technology and this support, etc. And I told them, and I asked them, how many of you knows Tel Aviv? And of course, everyone raises his hand. And I told them, there are 2 streets in Tel Aviv. One street is called Rhines, okay? And this is like, I don't know, Ninth Avenue in New York. And another one is Dizengoff, which is like the Fifth Avenue. When I was a student in the university, that was like 1,000 years ago, when someone dated a girl that he didn't want others to see that he's dating, he used to take her to the Rhines Street, Ninth Avenue of New York, okay? If you want to date someone that you want to see, that everybody to see that you are dating, you take her to the main street, Fifth Avenue, Dizengoff. And I told him, look, the African countries, they would like to work with us. They would like us to be like a pair, but they only want us on the Ninth Avenue, the Rhine Street. We want to be the Dizengoff girl, not the Rhine Street girl. If you're with us, show your support, show your solidarity, show your friendship. Vote in the United Nations for Israel. Support Israel's status in the African Union. There are so many other things that can be done to show the support that is needed for Israel, because our battle is not only in the front, in the war in Gaza or other places. We also struggle daily in the diplomatic struggle, in the legal struggle that we will hear about tomorrow. And there we need to see our friends standing with us, not at the corridor saying, yes, yes, we support you. Sit in the podium or sit in the plenary, raise your hand and say, I'm with Israel. I'm against the enemies of Israel. And this is the message I would like to ask you to go back to your countries. And I know that the decision is taken by the president in many cases, or maybe the prime minister. But remember, there are times that, unfortunately, ambassadors in the UN don't report what they're going to do or what they did. And this touches what Danny spoke about the voting there, okay? And you are parliamentarians. If you are aware, or if you know that there's going to be a vote for Israel or against Israel in some of those institutions, make sure that your foreign minister knows what the ambassador does. And if the ambassador is voting by mistake or wrongly, go and tell that to your government, to the president, to whoever you can, to make sure that mistakes like this will not repeat. We need the friendship to be built in two channels, okay? It's not one way. Our hand is reach out, but we need the other side to shake our hand so the collaboration will be fruitful, successful for all of us, because only together we will be strong. We will be able to win in the battle against evil. So let's bless Israel together and partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Moody Sandberg. Really appreciate your contribution. One time I sat as Honorable Moody was presenting the blessings of the technology of Israel, and I said, I want to be African by origin and identity, but I really want the mind of a Jew. Because every problem that they are presented with, they put up a solution. And this is ordinary people, ordinary men and women that will resolve their issues on water, defense and security, technological within the healthcare services and all that. And really every problem that we have in Africa, every solution, every technological issue, every advancement, these guys have figured it out or will figure it out, and they will not want any type of domination or advancement as some of our friends within multilateralism do. Now, as I was here and as this afternoon started and Honorable Moody started and the rest started speaking, we had planned for a meeting at the AU, but we got a notice that because of the new year tomorrow, there's a staff deficiency at the African Union. And therefore, the trip today is not going to materialize until it will be communicated at another opportunity in the near future. Tomorrow, we have the Ethiopian New Year, and therefore AU has communicated that the Ethiopian staff are not available to accommodate us for a trip today. They wanted to host us. They were looking forward to it. We had all the clearances possible. The reason why I'm saying the Ethiopian staff is because that's the only staff that is available now at the AU, because there's a UN General Assembly that is ongoing. and majority of the international staff usually go to that end. So we pray to God that we will have another opportunity to visit the AU when it is fully functional. We want to have a panel discussion for 20 minutes, then we break for the day, and then we come back for dinner at 7 p.m. The dinner today will be to celebrate the friendship of Africa and Israel. And one of the things that we have done is that we have lined up wonderful presentations about the nation of Israel and about Africa, but much more importantly, the splendor and honor of Jerusalem. I will invite the team that needs to set up. The team that is going to set up should have set up by now for the panel. Beatrice, we want to do a setup, but as we set up, I want to invite Mayan Hoffman. Mayan Hoffman, she's out. We're going to set up for the panel discussion right now shortly, and we're going to have 20 minutes of the panel session, then we break for the day, and then we do the dinner in the evening, which the dinner is going to be at the same hall that we were today. And then tomorrow we will take it deeper. Please, I want the stage set up for panel. We have a wonderful panel that is set up for you that is going to be moderated by Honorable Eric Selle. We have some experts lined up for you. So I'm going to ask Gedalia, who established the Heartland Foundation, Judea and Samaria, to be on standby, and Aviva, who wrote a book about Israel's development aid in Africa, to come to standby. We were to have Professor Asher Small, who is an expert in anti-Semitism, and this panel will just discuss shortly for 20 minutes. And then afterwards, we will break for the day. I don't know if somebody called Mayan, or we'll have her right straight after. Mayan is our media consultant. She had something small to say. She's doing an interview, as I am informed. So please celebrate this panel of experts who have come all the way from Jerusalem, and they'll be paneled by Eric.
Do you mind if I just break up this 1 second? I just want everybody to know that it's a pleasure to be here, first and foremost. And my wife allowed me to come here despite the fact that I left 8 children with her. So I want to ask everybody, if you could just do me a little favor, she'll love it. And as you know, if your wife is happy, then of course the husband's happy. Can I do a video? Her name is Elisheva. Can I do a quick video and everybody says, thank you, Elisheva, please? You have no idea what this is going to mean. We have 2 children in diapers, and we have 6 others. So this is, and a dog that's not trained. So wait, on the count of 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. You have no idea what you just did for me. Thank you.
All right, that was Gedalia Bloom presenting himself. Welcome to this panel. And Aviva Klumpas, right? I got it right?
You did?
Yeah. So I think this panel is going to be very fruitful for all of us because Gedalia is the founder of the Heartland Foundation Initiative. And Aviva has written a book about Israel's development aid in Africa, which you see, and they can buy it afterwards. Do you have copies?
I have a few.
Good. So this is, we talked about today about a few things that what can Africa do for Israel? And we heard from Moody what Israel can give to Africa, because it needs to be a two-way street. And it is my favorite two topics, but let us just start. Gedalia, what is the heartland of Israel? I mean, geographically, where is the heartland?
Geographically, it's we call it Judea and Samaria. A number of the people around the world, they call it the West Bank because it wouldn't make sense to call it Judea when they're trying to get the Jews to leave. Jews got to leave Judea. It sounds a lot worse than Jews have to leave the West Bank. So it's Judea and Samaria is a heartland where 80% of the Bible takes place. And this is the reason why it's the region in which the Jews came back after 2,000 years of exile. This is the reason the center of Jewish life was in Judea and Samaria in the heartland. And this is why we have legitimacy in Haifa and Tel Aviv and Eilat, everywhere else. And so it's a very strategic position, not only through security and heritage and religion, but for the whole country, because if the Jews aren't connected to the heartland of Judea and Samaria, we really have no legitimacy anywhere else in the country.
So how old is the name Judea and the name Samaria? I mean, ball figure.
I mean, we're dealing with the kingdom of Samaria. I mean, we're talking 3,000 years ago. I mean, listen, I live in a place called Eli. And on a very clear day in the winter, you could see from where I'm standing in the center, geographical center of Israel, you could see the snow on the Hermon in the mountains in the north. You could see the mountains of Jordan in the east, and you could see the ships in the sea in the west, all from one space, just to let you know how small Israel really is. And when we're dealing with, let's say, the historical part of it, let me just put context in. I live next to ancient Shiloh, which is the first Jewish settlement from the times of Joshua. We're talking about Joshua before, where there's been over 2 million sunrises over those hills of Binyamin since the first Jew ever settled the land of Israel. So it's a very, very deep-rooted part of not only the land of Israel, but the people of Israel and the Torah of Israel.
I'm just trying to make a point, because the names, the historical names, if you look at maps, read books, official reports from the Roman Empire, the name is Judea and Samaria going 3,000 years back. So when did the name or the label West Bank come into the picture?
The West Bank came in after the Six-Day War, following the Jordanian occupation of Judea and Samaria, when they lost a war that was forced upon the Jewish people, and they lost. And so they realized it's really hard to beat the Jews militarily. So we have to do the psychological warfare, political warfare. So what better way to remove the connection of the Jews than to rename it, just like what the Romans did when they kicked us out the first time, when they called Israel Philistine, which is now being adopted. Changing the name of something, changing your culture. As everybody knows, I was just in South Africa earlier in the year, and I hear people who speak Zulu go to school, and the government and the people are saying, don't speak Zulu anymore, speak English. And I'm like crying. I'm like, the Jewish people, after 2,000 years of being in exile, are finally speaking the language of their forefathers. Language is culture. It's everything, it's every thread of who we are. And so when you rename a land that was conquered, reestablished for the Jewish people, you rename it the West Bank, you're essentially unraveling our connection, our culture, which is really the death of any people. So you could kill somebody through culture much easier than you can through military.
So I really, the point we're trying to make, and I think that the work you're doing is really important, because in 1948 there was a war of independence. just they didn't want you to come back anywhere. And then there has been a gradually fight for every single area of this place. I think most of Africans in general are used to hearing the word the occupied West Bank. It would be very difficult to have a UN resolution that says that the Jews are occupying Judea. So what we are looking at is a third front of war against the Jews. We started with a military war we talked to today. Peter is going to speak about the judicial war. But here we have a war of semantics, because they are using semantics to frame an idea that Gedaliah is an alien in the Jewish ancient homeland. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
So you said that 80% of the Bible is in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria.
Well, the first edition, I'm not talking about the second edition of the Bible here.
No, we get you. Even Jesus walked the same routes as Abraham, you know? So the church forgets sometimes that Jesus was a Jew. But can you tell me about a little bit what do you do? What are the initiatives you do? Because I think it's really important for Africa. Next time they come to Israel, they need to come to the heartland of Israel. Because nobody is fighting for Tel Aviv anymore. Everybody says the Jews can be in Tel Aviv, they can be in Haifa, they can go to Eilat and the Dead Sea. But we need the world to accept that the heartland of Israel actually is Jewish. So what are the initiatives you do? What can you bring? How can you connect with Africa to expand this very important narrative?
So listen, the Heartland Initiative is a platform for people to come together, whether it be politicians, business people. But it's for people to come together that open each other up about the feeling and the emotional connection. And I know how crazy it could be in the political sphere. I think it's really important. They say culture is downstream from politics. Politics is downstream from culture. If you try to have an argument or a discussion politically, when somebody's already had an experience, that whether or not it's true, they just had this feeling experience, you're not going to shape them. So bringing people to Judea and Samaria, normalizing it as part of this modern state of Israel is so important, because we bring them to the region, we show them the sites, and we meet the people. That's the number one. Yes, you're going to ancient Shiloh, you could go to Hebron, you could go to the first and second capital of the Jewish people, the third being Jerusalem. But at the end of the day, it's when you go back to your parliament and you think about quote-unquote West Bank sanctions against Israel, I don't want you thinking West Bank sanctions against Israel. I want you to think, oh, remember that woman Elisheva we all said thank you to? Well, I got to meet her when we came to Eli, and she made the most amazing soup. And we just can't let go of these people who we feel so strongly with. And I think that if anybody really wants to, and I think that this is where politics is kind of very difficult to make changes, we can't underestimate the power of community, of culture, of relationships. And you know what? You sit down with somebody to talk policy, do what we do in Israel. You talk about everything but that for the first hour, and then the last 5 minutes, then you start getting to the essence of it.
So present here today, you have a number of people within great influence in their countries. So is it possible for them to come to Eli, to come to Judea, Shomron? How can they relate to your foundation and see this for themselves?
I have a stack of business cards that, let's just consider them an invitation, okay? My email's on there. You say, Gedalia, I want to come to Israel. I want to set up a trip. I want to have an official trip. I want to bring my family. I want to bring my wife. I want to bring my kids. And I encourage that. I think it's much, we've had delegations where people brought their wives and family. And this is really the crux of what we wanted to do. It's about building relationships, and it's about, so I'll give you, anybody want to reach out to me, my business card is an invitation. Contact me through WhatsApp or whatever it is.
So in the UN, You heard in the news, occupied West Bank, it's Judea and Samaria. But what would happen to Israel if the world gets its way and Jews are banned in Judea and Samaria and Israel loses control of that territory? What do you see as the scenario?
It will never happen.
No, I know it will never happen, but from a military point, what is...
The Jews of Judea and Samaria, you have to understand, are the salt of the earth. They're the modern day pioneers for the land of Israel. They're like Joshua coming into the land of Israel and conquering the land. We're not conquering as like there's zero-sum game where Jews and Arabs can't live in the same place. But by all means, Israel must have an obligation to apply the liberal democracy, the laws that go along with Israel, to all of the land of Israel. And if people don't want to play according to the rules, you don't have to play on the playing field. I mean, that's the end of the. If they want real peace, we need to make sure that Jews are in control, because there's no place in the world that ethnic minorities have equal rights than anywhere else, I believe. And by the way, we're talking about our relationship with Africa. I'd also like to say that Israel's the only nation in the world, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, that have airlifted or removed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Africans from danger to freedom, right? I mean, the whole world has a history of slavery, of slave trade, of subjugating the Africans, and this is not who we are. Whether it's the Africans, whether it be Palestinians or whoever it is, we want to live in a free and democratic and with laws. We don't want to, and I'll say this about the UN. I think that if it ever came to that, and I think we're way overdue, I believe, my own personal opinion, is that Israel and many other liberal Western democracies need to say it's time to move on. Because the UN is made up a body where they vote equally, but the minority of those that make up the UN are free democracies. The majority aren't, and it's not a place for liberal democracy.
We should have a lot more time to elaborate this topic, but what is important to take out of this conversation is that what the world calls the occupied West Bank is not occupied. I mean, it's occupied in the sense that Jews lived there for thousands of years. But that heritage belongs to you as Christian African nations. Because if the Jews don't occupy that area, if they don't live there, if they don't open that area to you as Christians, then Christianity is gone. So